Damos estampillas.
You are now tuned in to your number one radio station.
Violent people.
Radio.
Welcome to Violent People Radio number 37. I'm Dan, and I'm joined by usually Chris. How's it going, Chris?
I am usually Chris.
Yeah. Well, you're usually here too. I mean, some people aren't here this week. That's all I'm saying.
That's true.
Yeah.
True.
We do still have Pat. How's it going, Pat?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
I'm doing all right. Sam could not be with us. You know, probably a good reason, but also probably didn't want to be here. So instead we have Andy, returning guest, Shrimp Rizgit 420.
Unusually me. I'm here.
How you been since your last appearance?
Not too bad. Busy,
Alright.
but not bad. It's been a minute.
Now, I would have this answer if I was professional. Was your first appearance, was that Saw Thoughts 1?
That was Saw Thoughts 1, yes.
Okay, all right.
I take full credit for Saw Thoughts.
I thought it'd be, episode 26. That was quite a while ago.
Yeah, that was like that was like October because it was post Wrestle Dream or like November or something.
Yeah, it was beginning of November. All right. I think we knew since last week that Sam wouldn't be on, or at least the weekend. And so, of course, I asked you last night in the middle of the night, hey, what are you doing tomorrow?
Yep. And I'm fully prepared. I spent the whole day at the DMV, so I didn't watch anything relating to the Big Top. So we're going to go off vibes here.
Now, I don't want to spoil the Big Top, but it's the Big Top that you suggested as a joke
Yes.
that I didn't get.
That I'm now paying for.
Yeah, that is now the actual Big Top. Okay, well, let's start with you as the guest. Did you watch any wrestling? I know you didn't today because you're at the DMV, but did you watch any wrestling recently that you want to talk about?
I mean, the big one. Watched, Goto Zach, obviously. Watched the whole New Beginning show. Don't remember much of the New Beginning show, but I remember that match, and that match was phenomenal. That is the first time that New Japan main has felt like the 2015 to 2018 New Japan mains with the strong style and the camera zooms and the rah-rah. I mean, that's the first time it's felt earned since then, maybe. So, loved that match. Loved that it was 20 minutes. Everything should be 20 minutes. Nothing needs to be more than 20 minutes, is my takeaway from that match.
Yeah, I just watched the match like an hour ago, and I adored it. I thought the pacing was perfect because it worked so well with Goto too, because you could tell just from the second the bell rang that he wasn't there to play around. He was just going to do like what he could to win the fucking belt, and like he wasn't going to get cute with it. He wasn't going to pace himself. He was just going to, from the jump, try and put Zach down, and it worked fucking brilliantly.
The pacing was great, and it's especially something that makes sense in context of him trying 8 times or whatever, and it's now this is the moment, so it clicks it on. No more fucking around. It's learning from those past matches. That's really cool. I also love that it's in direct contrast to the last big Zach main event that was 43 minutes and was paced really, really poorly. And it's just a good little, what can you do with short time? You can make a match fill that time perfectly. You can make everything make sense. And you can still crescendo to a big, as much as, I don't know, maybe I haven't watched Goto in a minute. I'm still not in love with his finisher, but it built to it so well. And then those last ones were just looked so conquering. And so, like, you could tell he won before he even got the pin. And, like, that was cool to get in 20 minutes,
Yeah. Yeah, you were just like, before the arm's over, you're just like, Zach's fucking done. Goto is the champ.
Such a cool little... I don't know what they did specifically to tell that, but like you just knew based on everything that had happened, and that was such a cool thing. It's like, yo, he did it, and then 1, 2, 3, and you're like, wow, he really did it.
I watched it too, and I obviously loved it as well. And I don't even know. I don't want to give New Japan too much credit, but it's like, man, they heated them back up after over a decade. Like, I didn't think I cared about Goto anymore, and then I didn't make it. I tried to watch it live. I put it on the TV. I didn't make it. It's insane hours, but watched it the next day, and I don't want to echo Joseph and Simon, who have both written amazing things about it, but like, my dad died in October. I grew up a Browns fan. Like, I know both kinds of loss, and it was perfect. And like, I went from like I care about New Japan right now. I'm like, I don't really know that I will by the time he has his next defense, but I'm like, fucking Goto did it finally. Like, he did it.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, like, it. And I'm assuming, like, and I'm not the biggest New Japan guy in the world, because I only kept up with it casually, and especially by the tail end of last year, but I feel like I'm still higher on it, especially in recent years, than the rest of you. But like, even if you're not, it's just a testament to both guys in the match. Like, Zach, one of the best wrestlers in the world for however many years you want to say, and then Goto has been doing it forever, giving a career performance when it matters the most, because that is one of his best performances ever.
Absolutely.
Would you say that he's the Jey Uso of New Japan?
I would say that.
Yeah.
I absolutely would.
It is just him.
Yeah.
And
it's also like, do we have to pretend, like, did they make the Rambo important on accident? Like, do I have to pay attention if like Nagata's gonna win the Rambo next year?
Yep.
That's crazy.
It does make me want to. I have to tune in next year. I think I like half skipped it, or I just watched the end this year, and I was like, "Oh, Goto won, that cool." And now it's like, you actually have to care.
It was one of the better. It was one of the better Rambos ever this year. Josh Barnett was in it.
The GOAT.
How was the what am I trying to say? The semi-main event, Gabe Kidd versus Yota Tsuji.
You asking me?
Yeah, because I haven't watched anything else of the show besides the main event.
I think I'm weirdly higher on Gabe than a lot of people. I'm a big vibes guy, and like, he's kind of corny, but like, when he gets going, and he just, it hypes me up. It was very much a Gabe Kidd match. A lot of decent brawl. Didn't like the finish, but it's worth watching. And I think one thing that Gabe Kidd is really good at is just like, it's because it does it so corny. But when the match is happening, you're like, yeah, like, this dude is the home fucking guy. He's defending the honor of whatever the fuck he's defending the honor of. He plays a really good, mean, but weirdly relatable guy. And I think it works in that match. Yota is great too. I mean, he's been great.
Well, I love the Omega match, and then somebody invited me to go to Chicago for the New Japan show, and I did not realize they were doing Gabe Kidd versus and my brain's not working today. Ishii in an Iron Man match, 30-minute Iron Man match, and I was like, it's so funny to have that match go at 30 minutes and then do it again on purpose.
the finishes and the structuring of this Gabe Kid character I haven't loved. Just like be normal and work this match normally. You don't have to make it epic. But when the match is going on, the epicness gets me, and then it goes too long, and I hate it. So I don't know. Right in the middle. Good match, worth watching. That's what I would say.
Okay. I have high hopes in that tag match being 10 minutes too.
Yeah. Thank God it was 10 minutes.
That's my kind of length. I mean, the whole show, all the matches are pretty short.
Yeah, and
So.
it when that first happened, people were going back to that Ibu tweet where he's like, how you shouldn't expect Zach, who's a mid-card 14-minute guy, to go 43 minutes in a main event. And people were like, oh, apologize to Zach or whatever. And it made me think, because it's interesting in that he's sort of right in that you shouldn't put Zack Sabre Jr. in a 43-minute New Japan main event. But the problem isn't Zack not being able to do that. It's New Japan still thinking that you have to do that. And they put in a 20-minute main event here, and it's, spoiler alert so far, my match of the year. It was so concise, and nothing needs to be more than 20 minutes anymore. We've now put the definitive stamp on that.
Okay. Did you watch any non-New Japan wrestling recently?
Besides that, really just Collision, which was actually really good this week.
It was
two
a great
good
show.
matches. Yeah, Fletch and Briscoe was great. I think I'm now sold on Kyle Fletcher as good. And I do think, as much as I'm annoyed at them pairing Garcia up with just a bunch of faces when he should be fighting like the worst detestable heels ever, I think they are nailing putting Fletcher up with beloved baby faces. And it just gives him this chance to really kind of like experiment with like how heelish he can be and kind of have like a sandbox to it. Because Mark Briscoe is always going to nail the comebacks, and he's going to sell like a champ when he's, being worked over. And there's a moment in that match that I love, and it's when Paul tells Kyle, he's like, get back in the ring, Kyle. And Kyle just looks up at him and goes, shut up, Paul. And it's just that little off-the-cuff thing that has now got me very sold on Kyle Fletcher. Like, the match is good too, but that's the thing that I picked up on. I was like, yeah, this guy gets it. I'm hooked.
That show had the something I haven't felt in a long time, where every single person on our Discord, on Twitter, anywhere I looked, was like so unanimously positive that I turned the show on. That I wasn't planning on watching it live, and I'm like, you know what, fuck it. I'm not, like, nothing was on TV. I just turned on Max and turned it on, and I was like, it's like the Monday Night Wars. They're getting me to change the channel, and it delivered. The show was awesome.
Oh yeah, we were away that last weekend. And of course, like this year, I got Max, but I'd been kind of slacking on watching live. And of course, the one time I couldn't watch live, everyone's like, you should watch that show. What'd you think of this match? What'd you think of this match? And I'm like, fuck, like I have to wait several days. But Bandito and Brian Keith also, I know we talk a lot about like having guys. Brian Keith's my fucking guy. And I love when he gets to just be the fucking bounty hunter. Because I got to see him several times on like Texas indie scenes, like right as he was glowing up, and like right when he won the national title, and like a little bit before he got signed, I saw a few Brian Keith matches, and I knew he was going to be it. And then the Eddie match, and like the Kyle match, and then they did the Learning Tree stuff, and I feel like I've been in the fucking trenches, being like, all you have to do is let him be the bounty hunter. And people are like, no, like he's going to get experience working with Jericho. Like this is good for him. He's going to get over eventually. And I say, all you have to do is let him be the bounty hunter. And they let him do it. And this match was, I think, fantastic. I'm probably higher on it than a lot of people because he is one of my guys. But like, his offense was so cool. It always is, but it was really cool. His control bits were cool. I actually watched this on name redacted website because I wanted to see the commercial break, the picture-in-picture control. It was so unique, and the energy was really good. And then, of course, when Bandito flipped it around, as much as I don't like that this match is just kind of like Brian Keith feeding for like a Jericho build, I mean, when Bandito flipped it around, everyone just stood up, and Brian Keith ate the shit that he needed to eat. And it was just a short little concise match. It did what it needed to do. I think that's a world title feud that I could see for months, but maybe I'm just crazy. But yeah, that match I had to sing the praises of because many people may not. And the dual spot was cool. Kind of corny, but it was cool.
It worked.
It worked.
Yeah,
It
it's a
worked.
testament to those guys.
Crowd-
A lot of
crowd
guys
was
are
into
stupid
it.
doing that. Yeah. Oh, the crowd was
Yeah,
a
they
big
were
part of that.
hype.
Yeah, the crowd for both the Atlanta Dynamite and then that collision in Texas were like those were two good shows, and the crowds being as into it as they were helped even
Texas.
more.
Texas is hot. I mean, I had a buddy who was at the Austin one yesterday, and I know it's airing now. I'm going to watch it probably tomorrow, but apparently that crowd was hot too. Texas is the spot.
You have Brian Keith and Big Bill just getting universal praise, and it's just like they just have an anchor around their neck.
And everyone's saying, oh, when they split off, it's going to be great. And I'm like, yeah, it's going to be great. But it's not like these are two young kids just breaking into these aren't Daniel Garcias. These are two veterans who, if you just let them go, would be great. So easy. And for everyone saying that Brian Keith and Bandito and Hangman need to be a trio, they fundamentally don't get it. The Outlaw and the Bounty Hunter should not be a team. They should wrestle forever. That's my stance on that.
Well,
That's a world title feud.
I think Bandito should only wrestle Commander and Vikingo and Roosh and Taurus, and that's just what I think.
NXT.
I'm just pulling those guys out of top of my head.
Apparently, I had a buddy who was at the Austin Dynamite, and they did the Lucha, the CMLL trios for Ring of Honor after it, and he said that you could tell who next to him watched actual Lucha and who just watched them in AEW, because he said some people were complaining about why are they not tagging and who's even legal, what's the point of this? And I was like, to say that in AEW already with why are they not tagging?
Yeah.
Come on. And of course it was Rick Knox refereeing both that match and the Trios titles match before, which fantastic work there.
I don't care what's going on. If you watch wrestling like that in the arena, I don't want to sit next to you.
Exactly. It's a vibe. Just who cares?
All right, any other wrestling you want to talk about?
That's pretty much it. I mean, it happened more than a week ago, but I watched the DPW show. But that's nothing too eventful happened. It wasn't one of their best shows, just another really good, consistent, rock solid show. Shout out to Danny O'Ryan, though. Texas fucking king, getting a match with Tankman, getting his ass kicked. Really good.
So, I'm just going to dox you. You don't live in Texas now, though, right?
No, not anymore, sadly.
Okay. I didn't think so.
Yeah, we moved out of Texas right as New Texas started expanding in Austin, which is an L on my part. But yeah, no longer.
Yeah, when I was in Austin, it was the week of Thanksgiving, so that makes sense. There's no wrestling on Thanksgiving anymore, but it's there were indie shows the week before and the week after, and I was like, oh, of course.
Yeah,
all right.
They keep busy.
Chris, what about you? Watching any wrestling the last week?
So Andy kind of stole my whole flow. Cause yeah, I watched AEW from last week, Dynamite and Collision, and I was going to highlight Bandito versus Brian Keith and Kyle Fletcher versus Mark Briscoe, which were both great matches. I watched Goto versus ZSJ, like I said an hour ago. What I'll add to that is because I was on a time crunch, I just found the version that was uploaded with Russian overdub commentary, and I did not want to listen to that. Which unfortunately, I did not get to listen to the crowd reacting to Goto winning, but I did. I was just like, well, I need to listen to something, so I listened to Bob Dylan's hit 1986 album "Knocked Out Loaded" while I watched that. Which is the funniest Bob Dylan album to listen to in any circumstance. Shout out to the great song "They Killed Him." Dynamite. Like I said, the Atlanta Dynamite was good. Ricochet versus Swerve was the main event, and that was a really cool main event. Like worked in a like very much a TV match that they're going heated good TV match that's going to build to some kind of pay-per-view match, probably with a stip. And crowd was super into it, a lot of fun, but they're clearly like holding back for like teasing you with like something more that they're going to give you later, which it did its job. I think that entire feud in and out of the ring has been built really well.
I do, just not to butt in, it does make me excited to see what they do for the match they're building to, because I thought already like the promotion for just this TV match was like really solid. They were pushing it for weeks. They announced it a couple weeks in advance. So I thought this was going to be like a pretty big thing that would lead to Swerve and Bobby again or Swerve and something, but it feels like they're sticking with it, which makes me really excited for if they do a big match with a stip, like carrying this momentum that they have over it will be cool.
Yeah, because like we talked about like how heel Kyle Fletcher has worked with like getting us on board with Kyle Fletcher in general. Heel Ricochet has just been so good at revitalizing Ricochet after like his initial debut in the company. He just felt like another flippy babyface. Just like, all right, we're running back Ricochet versus Ospreay. No one's really excited, like except like Dave and
like the most annoying people you know.
Yeah, but like bell to bell, I think heel Ricochet, he just has more to do. There's more holding his matches together between the moves. Like he's still doing the cool offense, but like working heel, there's more through line in his matches, and it's working so much better. You see that like in the Zack match in the Tokyo Dome as well. So like I think that's worked out really well. I did also like I thought the Queen Aminata Tony Storm match was like a fun little match. Like in general, AEW's had some really solid TV so far, and has made me way more excited going into like this Australia show than I thought I'd be. So that's really refreshing after being really tired of them as the year went on and just not watching most weeks. And other than that, I finally watched the January 19th Lucha Memes show, which we've talked about the hardcore match with Demus on the show before. I don't need to go into that. It's awesome. There's a couple great tag matches on that show as well. Noisy Boy and Spiderfly versus Rhea Spartano and Ryu, as well as Argus and Gaius versus Chef Benito and Energia. And I think that was my slightly preferred of the two tag matches. Let's just say Chef Benito was cooking, right? Am I right? I'm sorry, I had a concussion this week.
Great save with that one.
Well, but like you got it doing something like really like cool and manly and heroic.
Oh yeah, I hit my head on the wall trying to reach for my phone in the dark.
That is such a relatable story, though. Actually,
Yeah, I wanted to get my phone so I could have a flashlight, and I didn't see the wall, and I hit my head.
That's poetic.
And like that night, I was just like, I think I'm fine. I like blacked out for a second, but like I feel fine. And the next day, I still had a headache, and like I just felt like shit. Like I felt hungover, even though I hadn't drank anything. I felt depressed and lethargic, and I was just like, I think I've got a concussion. I should get this checked out. And yep.
Hitting your head and blacking out for a second and then going to sleep is wild.
It was like
Bad.
4 a.m.
that's
Yeah,
that's an old wives' tale. They
Well-
tell you can sleep now.
Oh, is that the thing? Did they change that?
Yeah, you're allowed to sleep.
Oh,
And
science is
and
smart.
I did stay up for a little bit. Because I was just like, I should monitor this. But I was just like, all right, I know what year it is. It's just like, Donald Trump is president, right? Like, the freaking Cheetos back in the White House, right?
The guy from Home Alone 2?
It's- I feel
Mhm.
bad for everyone who gets a concussion now because like they have to ask you who the president is, and it's just even without a concussion already like the most unbelievable thing happened. So you're kind of concussed, you're woozy, you're like, there's no fucking way it's Donald Trump again, right? That sounds like what someone with a concussion would say.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the guy from Home Alone 2, right? They're like,
He's
"Yep,
not doing
fine."
anything. He's not doing anything too crazy, is he? Though. Just want to check
I
in
think
real
we're
quick.
good.
Oh, okay, good.
Hope you don't feel any attachment to any golfs.
Oh my god. So,
But-
how is the Lucha roundup looking?
Well, so most of the week I did not watch any more wrestling because the doctor said I should take care of my brain.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure watching IWRG while you
That's
have a
real.
concussion is just literally begging to end up with like Tony Atlas brain.
So yeah, I was nice to myself. I didn't watch any more wrestling until I watched that Lucha Meme show yesterday, and then I watched the New Japan main tonight.
All right, good stuff. What about you, Pat? You watch anything last week?
Almost nothing. I had 2 weeks to watch wrestling, and instead I started a new game of Cyberpunk 2077.
I heard it's good now.
I mean, it's been good for years. It's just most of the crazy game breaking stuff they fixed years ago. And now it's like, at this point now, when they do a patch update, it's like, we've made the cars shinier. The driving in it still kind of sucks. I miss when the driving hadn't been fixed, so your only option was just like power drifting around every corner. Because that was legitimately fun. They had to, for a while, it was like if you drove your car into a crowd of people, they'd all just kind of like sigh and like tip over gently because there was no way to drive without hitting any pedestrian who was on a street corner. Other than that,
Just like real life.
just like real life. Other than that, I watched the first episode of AAA's new TV season, whatever you want to call the 2025 tour. And if you don't watch, if you're already predisposed to thinking that AAA is going to be bad, I mean, fucking congratulations. It's exactly what you think it's going to be. If you want to see, just weird wrestling that tries to be WWE with about a tenth of the creativity and maybe a 15th of the budget, it's perfect. And the new episodes have been, rather than being hour and a half episodes, they've been edited down to an hour. And I say that is also terrific. Just, more of that, please. More bad Dallas matches that only go 5 minutes.
Now they're building something cool for Triple Mania, though, right?
Yes, they're building to Alberto versus. Right now, they're saying it could be Latin Lover. It could be a representative of Latin Lover. And Latin Lover's hair is on the line, and Dorian Roldan's hair is on the line. So, if you want to see the nephew of the guy who founded AAA get his head shaved, that will be the main event.
And maybe Latin Lover get his head shaved when he maybe
that's-
wrestles.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. I mean, you would think the smart thing for them to do is they're going to have, Latin Lover choose like Pagano or someone, and then Alberto runs Pagano over with a truck or something like that. So Latin Lover, after all this buildup, is forced to step into the ring. Like that would be the sane way to do it, but it's AAA, so I have no idea.
I didn't get to watch it yet, but they had the Trauma 1 versus Trauma 2 versus Elio de la Park and Impossibly match.
Yeah,
and you were going to
I
be really
wanted.
surprised who lost the match.
Yeah. The guy who's just like a part timer for IWRG these days, shockingly
Almost
lost his
retired.
match. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
wanted
will.
to.
They did the thing where they pretended it was going to be Trauma 1 versus Trauma 2, and people on my Twitter and the Facebook did bite on it for a second.
Yeah, they had one of the traumas did the Forbidden Tombstone pile driver. Or no,
No, it was done
Impossible.
to him.
Impossible did the. Sorry, I mixed that up. Impossible did the Tombstone pile driver. So he pinned one of the traumas, and it was going to be trauma versus trauma. And then, wouldn't you know it, someone from the commission ran in and said that will not stand, and just disqualified Impossible. So he ended up in the mask match.
I did legitimately see people on my Facebook, though, like in that split second, thinking that was going to be the mask. I'm like, yep, that's what's going to happen. One of the traumas are going to lose their mask against each other with no build-up.
Getting worked by the traumas, they must have the Mark Mind virus. Must be going around.
Well, the traumas.
Many such cases.
The Negocio Tramato guys just announced that they have their own super indie that they're launching called Indie Mas Lucha Libre, which is not connected to Mas Lucha. So I look forward to whatever kind of crazy brand confusion situation that they've caused.
Well,
I can't wait to see their shows where Negocio Tramato wrestles Perquitza Extrema.
Yeah, I mean, if there's one thing that Indie Lucha Libre has been lacking, it's been Fracero Jr. main events. And I'm glad that someone is finally around to give us what we've sorely been lacking.
And I'm also going to say there's also still a strong possibility it goes on Match Lucha that way, or
it
doesn't air at all.
The mask match?
No, this new promotion that's not
Yeah.
affiliated with them.
Yeah, watch as it turns out that they end up as subscriber exclusive shows because Mas Lucha, they don't seem to. They did this show at the mask match show as a subscriber thing, and they've got the Io del Santo tour, but I don't know what else.
The next one they have, I think, has a Fishman Mascara Sagrada match on it, the next TXT show that's airing on there. But yeah, they only air like one show a month on the $8, which I know because they get my $8 every month. $8 subscribers feed, and then it's only like the last half that's behind the paywall. They start the shows for free.
Yeah, they treat like the first half of the show as the kickoff, and then you have to pay if you want to see the main event.
Which is smart, because it is true that
Yeah.
none of that first half of any of these shows is going to make a difference whether or not you pay. You're just paying for one match, maybe two, if you're lucky, on most of these shows.
Yeah, and the main event of that mask match was like 40 minutes long, which is the only thing really
that's why I
stopping
haven't
me from
watched it
seeking
yet.
it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I've glanced at it and I was like, I can't do that to myself today. But that's all the wrestling you watched?
That's all the wrestling I watched. Have you kept up? I know Dan is aware of it. Have you guys kept up on indie wrestling superstar Charlie Tiger lately?
Oh god.
Oh my! I saw this.
This is
I am out of the loop, so I'll be the perfect segue into.
Oh
bit
no,
of the
you're
podcast.
in for a treat.
Charlie Tiger, hit me with it.
so. Are you at least familiar with the notion of who Charlie Tiger is?
No, not even.
Okay.
This is. This sounds like a
Imagine
made-up
if
person.
the Young Bucks had a cousin from like Havre de Grace, Pennsylvania. That's what Charlie Tiger looks like. He looks like the forgotten Massey. And Tim of QNTR assures me that he is an okay wrestler. From what I've seen in GCW, Tim is lying to me. But long story
I would
short,
say he's easily one of the best wrestlers in Young, Dumb, and Broke.
that I will agree with. But he was just arrested over terroristic threats or something like that. He went into an IRS facility in New Jersey, and he was wearing a mask and carrying a backpack, and caused some kind of disturbance. The police reports didn't get into what, but he got arrested for like criminal harassment and threatening behavior in an IRS facility, and he has chosen to post through it. He
Incredible.
is, he's from what a friend of mine who's like connected to the Pennsylvania Indies says that he's fallen on hard times lately, and didn't have more details than that. He is tweeting that he's homeless and that Citizens Bank has stolen all of his money from him, while also basically tweeting like, "Hey guys, should I kill the head of Citizens Bank? Hashtag Luigi Mangione." So
That was the day before he got arrested for threats at the IRS.
I
So
know
it was very
that's,
funny to me when he was like, "Why would they framed me?" I was like, "You framed yourself a little there too."
and he's also
Leaving him.
posting a lot of pictures of himself with a knife, like a big knife.
Yeah, it's not good. Not a great situation.
It is crazy. But
I did check his Twitter now, and I do know who this guy is, but I have not seen any of these tweets. Holy shit!
yeah, and then there are people tweeting like, "Everyone book Charlie Tiger," to which I kind of agree now. But I told Tim I would quote him. Tim's exact quote: "I thought he was relatively fine. Now he might be the best wrestler alive. If he kills a CEO or federal employee before you record VPR, I need to amend my statement to is the best wrestler alive." And for any feds listening, that is a quote from Tim from QNTR at ROH Dutch on Twitter if you want to get in touch with him about his viewpoints.
I'm not saying I.
Yeah, I do
encourage that
not
kind of behavior.
condone Timothy Buckner. All his views are his own.
Well, I'm just
They are his own
so I can
views,
say
but
that I
we do
fully
endorse
agree
him.
with him, and we do endorse him from Violent People Radio.
I will say that we still have slightly under a month until the VP 2024s are due. If he does the D before that, he's going to number one on my list.
That's
So-
work outside of the ring.
I think that's a fair time frame.
Wait, let me finish. If he kills him inside of a ring.
So the
Is it an officially sanctioned match?
Oh,
Is
The
his
CEO
opponent?
So wait,
the
you don't
CEO
count like
of Citizens
like
Bank
lights
has
out
a chance
matches?
to do the coolest thing ever.
Is his official opponent the official?
so the
Is
latest
this going on Cage Match?
the latest picture he has on Twitter is himself in front of a car. He's wearing a blazer and what do not look like perfectly clean khakis, along with his fanny pack, some medallions. He's got bottles, mostly empty bottles of liquor on the hood of a car, along with a stuffed tiger. He's clutching a knife between his teeth, and he's holding a wad of cash. And it says, "I'm only a danger if you play me or pray me." Hashtag real tiger. The uncaged animal is not a myth. Who just robbed at Citizens Bank? Where's at Batman? And then in the reply to that, he linked to XXX by Kendrick Lamar. So
You did
I
leave
love
out.
that
He has a really cool Tasmanian Devil front license plate cover.
oh yeah, I miss. Well, I don't know if he has it because who knows if that's his car. But yes, that is directly under his dick in the picture.
Yeah, that's why I saw it right away.
I
I
also
love
like
more
the tweet
schizophrenics
of
in pro
you can pick
wrestling.
whichever one you want with 4 photos of him, and 3 of them are just like wrestling promo shots, and one of them is clearly a selfie he took at 2 a.m. of himself holding a knife. And I'm like, you are only getting the one option out of these right now. Anyway, wrestling is awesome.
More schizophrenics in my wrestling, please.
So this is the danger of a concussion, Chris. You could have ended up arrested at an IRS office.
Yeah, I mostly just napped and watched the film, rewatched actually the film adaptation of Max Payne.
Was it any better? With
Still not
concussion?
good.
Okay.
No,
Even concussed.
maybe slightly.
Right now, it had Catalina versus Persephone in a women's match that I watched all the way through at normal speed, which is pretty rare. Atlantis versus Blue Panther in like a 10-minute exhibition of old guys. Valente, Volador Jr., Xanakin Jr. versus Esfendige, Star Jr. and Templario was like really fun. And then the main event was Atlantis Jr., Mystico, Teton versus Cavanario, Hechicero, and Soberano Jr. And that Rudo team, they should team just exclusively. That should be the stable, and they should team all the time because they're fucking amazing. I don't think it'll last as my show of the year because even the main event, I don't know if it's quite at match of the year level. I loved it. But it's just such an easy watch, and every one of those matches was good, and that main event was great. So it's just like it's not always the most thrilling promotion in the world, but it's just they're so fucking consistent. I watched that, and then somebody on the Discord was talking about I can't remember who asked it now. Maybe Steph. Someone was asking what's your favorite 2003 wrestling match was. So that sent me down a rabbit hole of watching some 2003 wrestling, and I don't really have anything too crazy important to say. It's like Masao versus Kobashi is really fun. Kurt Angle versus Chris Benoit might still be my match of that year. It fucking rules. Chris Benoit, good wrestler, maybe better person, is just the VPR stance.
It really is the CTE
We're doubling
week.
down on great
Yeah.
stances.
But no, that fucking rules. It's just like you don't want to think about his brain at all during it. Because there's like 7 spots where you go,
Yeah,
which is that's the tweet that goes around. Every Benoit match has that. But that
Yeah, I
Royal
love
Rumble
that
match
tweet
especially.
every time that tweet shows up, it gets me.
But then I also watched because you're watching all the big ones. You're watching Angle, Benoit, Masao Kabali. I also watched Bobby Quance and Birdie France versus B-Boy and Super Drag from 2003. And I think B-Boy and Super Dragon are just the Young Bucks before the Young Bucks in that match. And except like with Super Dragon killing people occasionally, and it fucking
Yeah, he's
rolls.
the best wrestler ever. Super Dragon is the best wrestler ever.
There's a spot where Quantz like flips out of the Psycho Driver, and then they're clearly supposed to do like a drop down and then like missile drop kick spot, but it doesn't really work. So then Super Dragon just gets up and just kicks him directly in the mouth. Like there's no real spot anymore. Like he just gets up, kicks Quantz right in the face, and I go, "Yeah, there you go." But then Quantz does this cool thing too, where he has like his like little spinny flippy kick, where he does it. Super Dragon ducks underneath it and does like his Super Dragon thing, where he's putting his arms in the air and showboat and talking about how awesome he is. And then Quantz just turns around and does it again and makes sure he hits him right in the face with it. With this is a 20-minute match. Within 6 minutes, they're just hitting each other with brain busters and suplexes, and yeah, it's really good. And I think if it happened on an indie show now, it would be the best match on most indie shows. Like people would lose their minds about it still. And I missed Super Dragon, and I mean, all only one of these guys still going is B-Boy, and he's completely fucking terrible now. So
Yeah, it is like it's always crazy when you rewatch Super Dragon, because whenever you're watching Super Dragon, you do like you do think, is he the best ever? And you're like, no, he can't be. But in the moment, you're just like, but is he?
and this is 03. I mean, not that he's early in his career, but it's fairly early in his career. And it's like, how is this guy not? Why was he not getting flights to the East Coast? Like, how do you not watch one of his matches and go, oh yeah, we need him? Like Ring of Honor, JPW, whoever you are, you should
He's
instantly bring
so
him in.
sick. He's
Yeah.
so like the occasions where he does pop up in CZW and tags with like Necro or something. Oh my god.
We think
I
he
think
might
we
have
covered in
been.
our.
Do we think he might have been the victim of a political hit?
God, Super Dragon versus Roman Reigns would fucking rule. I think we talked about on the XPW show, but I love the story of just like he worked like 2 or 3 XPW shows, and then all the veterans are like, yeah, fuck that, he's out of here. He's doing way too much cool shit.
I mean,
I do
it
like there
makes
is a
sense.
timeline where Super Dragon Ring of Honor happens, and I wonder what the world looks like if that happens.
It's
Probably.
the Simpsons gif of Lionel Hutz imagining of the world peace, all races and religions holding hands in a circle.
Well, my
It's
question
that,
is,
except everyone has like wraps around their head and is concussed.
Yeah.
absolutely, but my question is, so in a world where Super Dragon becomes, like an ROH regular, in that world, what does that do to the critical consensus of low key? Does that make low key like less special because we have Super Dragon also being a fucking maniac and just like shoot mule kicking everyone in the head like he's Goldberg?
Yeah, I wonder like
it actually skyrockets because they have the greatest
Cleveland that has
feud of all time.
it has the Nigel McGuinness Bryan Danielson match that I love, is one of my favorite matches of all time. But I took my buddy Chris actually there, who's kind of a wrestling fan, and the only match he was talking about was Super Dragon versus BJ Whitmer, and about how Super Dragon was fucking insane. Like he didn't give a shit about Danielson and Nigel. He actually at that point, it was past his bedtime. I think he was ready to go home, but Super Dragon BJ Whitmer, he mentioned he would bring that match up like years later. He'd be like, "Who was that guy with the mask?"
I was so hoping that it was going to be like, and now the only wrestler he can name is BJ Whitmer.
Another great guy.
Yeah,
he's a shooters.
he is to boyfriends what Chris Benoit is to parents. Well,
I
actually,
just pulled
no.
up the card. I forgot. I forgot there was on that Ring of Honor show. There's a match after the Nigel McGuinness Danielson match. That's really dumb. No wonder Chris wanted to leave.
Yeah, I was really tired. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. And you weren't like a big wrestling guy. The other match, this is actually perfect. I didn't do this on purpose, but this is the last thing I want to talk about, and it'll kind of lead us to our big top. I watched AIW Ice Ice Oh Baby.
Yeah, I want to
I
hear
was going to ask if
report
you
on
watched this.
Yes. You should not watch this show. But if you wanted to watch a couple things, I guess that's fine. It's mostly like it's a Youngstown show. It's not. I mean, I guess it's one of the bigger shows, but not really because it's mostly AIW students up and down the show. They brought Zoe Sky back, who I like to bring up that Zoe Sky. She used to be Angel Dust. She's a women's wrestler out of Ohio. She works more than most wrestlers that you know, most women wrestlers on the indies, because she's on the little person tour with that Damos is on that goes all over the US. And I always find that really funny because I don't think of her as that short. She's like 5 something or 5'1", 5, I don't know, somewhere around there, but she's on that tour. So that always cracks me up. She wrestles the only AIW woman, which is Jocelyn Navarro. They brought in Heath Slater to wrestle Austin James. No. Um, Isaiah Broner faced this guy Joey Martini, which is really cool if you like AIW from a decade ago, but that's his first time since 2014. He was in Greg Irons' The Iron Curtain, and they brought him back. And this is Broner is one of those guys. He is so hot and cold for me. There's times where I see him and I'm like, why is he not on every show? And there's times where he is like gassed coming to the ring, like he is exhausted already. So it's tough to know what you're gonna get, but he looked great here. There's a shitty tag match in the main event, but what we're all here to talk about: Chavo Guerrero versus Colin Delaney.
EC Dub. EC Dub.
Fucking ruled. It was so good. Which I had been saying, like, Colin Delaney might be slowing down. He looked great here. And the cool thing about it is, I think partly because they're in Youngstown, which is not their norm. Like, they run Youngstown, but not much, not their normal crowd. The crowd is hot for Chavo. Like, I mean, Colin, you know, he's got to be up there as guys who's wrestled the most matches in AIW at this point. He's been around forever, him and Cheech. And he is the heel here just by virtue of not being Chavo Guerrero. It's great stuff, and it cracked me up. It's 2025. Chavo wins with a frog splash, gets on the mic, briefly puts over Colin, and then you know what he's talking about? Eddie fucking Guerrero.
That's right.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But you know what? The crowd loves Eddie Guerrero still. It still works. The whole deal still works. And
Yeah, it'll work forever. You could talk about Eddie Guerrero to me now, and I'd be like, yeah, man. Woo!
I like the rip on AIW, but this is definitely one of those shows where if you went to this, like, no one should pay whatever they charge me to watch it on YouTube. But if you were at this show, I'm sure you went home so fucking happy. I mean, I'm pretty sure that venue. So it's a brewing company. They serve drinks, so it's like you had yourself some drinks. You got to see Chavo Guerrero. Heath Slater, you know, trying to feed his kids or whatever. It was a
He's
good
got
fucking
kids.
match.
Are
Yeah.
his
still the
fucking
bit?
kids grown up by now?
You would think
His
they
Yeah,
could
he
be
still
the
got
selling
him.
point.
He's like, I gotta feed my
He still got him.
3-year-old son.
Hey, the meal plans at colleges ain't cheap. All
That's
right.
fair.
They're calling him like, Dad, can you stop using me as leverage in your wrestling? Like, I'm 26 now.
But yeah, that is because our big top, as jokingly chosen by our guest, is WWECW. Which, before I get to that, we do, I guess, briefly need to cover what's going on the website. Violentpeople.co, if you're not familiar.
Got it
Vote.
bookmarked, baby.
Yeah, vote in the VP 100s. You only got, what is it, like probably like 3 weeks at this point, Chris?
Yeah, so as of 2 days ago, you had a month.
Oh, okay.
So it was March 10th is the deadline. We bumped it on Twitter and Blue Sky a little bit this week, so we had a nice little resurgence in votes, which was good to see. Some new wrestlers getting number one votes, which I always like seeing.
We've been finding out that if we plug stuff on Twitter and Blue Sky, people see it. Like, we plugged the Discord for the first time in a year, and people joined.
It's so wild how that works.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, weird. It's really weird.
Can we,
I don't know if we'll
while
follow
we're
with
here,
it, but
Do you have the stats up now? Like, do you know how many number ones, like how many different number ones there are?
13.
Wow, that's kind of sick. Is there
Have there
still
been any
anyone?
ballots where you just think like this person is fucking with me?
Not yet.
Other than mine.
I say I'm still working on mine. You can get mad about
I'll make a burner email and submit another one just for you.
Thank you.
We are
Chavo
also
Guerrero, baby.
in the midst of the VP 2010s. Sam just put up 30 through 21. That went up yesterday.
Ooh.
Well, I guess 2 days ago if you're listening to this on Thursday. It had Black Terry, who should have been number 1, but I'll take 26. That's pretty good. Especially considering he can't get into the VP Hall of Fame. And I think, I don't want to speak for Sam, I think there's a solid chance by the time next week rolls around that the entire VP 2010s have been revealed.
Oh, I'm excited.
Last time I talked to him about it, that seemed to be the plan.
Yeah, sometimes real life does get in the way, but either way, we're very close to the end. I mean, 2 more posts.
The match recommendations are ready.
Yep. Thanks for Chris doing that. That was presented as an option of something I could help with, and I did not respond to that message.
So am I the only one who thinks it's insane that CM Punk placed as high as he did in the 2010s?
Insane?
Like
I don't think it's.
He was in the 20s off of like
27.
one match.
I just checked right now. He's 27. I don't think it's so much insane. I think it's the incorrect placement of him. But like, he's off of one match, and it's like the best match ever. So it's like, yeah, I got to give him a little something.
Yeah,
Well, what's crazy about that placement is knowing that if we did the VP 2010s 18 months ago or whatever, he would have been higher.
That's true.
Because there are people that do not like him right now. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Yeah, he's a real jerk.
Yeah, one of the top jerks is what I hear.
He's a real BJ Whitmer.
The one guy.
I was trying to see where I had him because I'm pretty sure I voted for him, but I will help you out know that it's not.
I had him at like 96 because I just couldn't.
He was on the bottom half of mine.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I could leave him off. So
I think I had him like just above Reika Saiki from Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling or something.
HD had him at number 2. So.
Well, now okay.
Whoa, can we spoil alert who their number 1 was?
I don't know.
I don't have the list. I don't have the list handy.
All right, fair.
HD, I have the list handy. I'll put someone on blast. Sam's not here to yell at me. Oh, I mean, it's not. It's a boring answer. They had Daniel Bryan at number 1.
I noticed that their top 2 people are
both
white cisgender males.
And they also wrote them as Daniel Bryan, which I judge a little.
I respect that.
I put him as Daniel Bryan for the 2010s.
It's the 2010s.
Bryan,
yeah.
You know?
He worked as Daniel Bryan for 99% of the decade.
Brian Danielson,
especially because
2010s.
Sam was telling us not to put in like, name A/name B/name C.
Sam just told me to please spell
also,
one
you can't
word
fucking
correctly.
judge anyone on how they put in names.
And you didn't.
They're like AJ Stylords.
AJ Stylus.
I put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 S's in Naito's name, but I think I'm gonna guess my keyboard got stuck there and didn't correct it. Yeah, I'm a menace. When you look at
you should be put down.
It's crazy I'm allowed to be on this show.
You should be put down like your computer.
If anyone that listens to this does computer repair, I'm going to ship you something here. Because no one in the tri-state is capable of fixing my computer still. But I think that's what we have going on Violent People. I'm guessing we're going to get Lucha Roundup sometime in February.
Yes.
Maybe I'm gonna. All right.
Yeah, I will be watching more of that tomorrow because I've got the day off.
All right. Let's get to the big top then. WWECW. Um. So, as the guest who chose this and then had no time to prepare, what is your connection to ECW as a brand of WWE?
It's really funny that I don't remember much from it because WWECW I was my initial kid wrestling fan. You know, you have your initial phase. That was the entirety of WWECW. Started watching in 05, stopped in 2010. So I got the full range.
Yeah,
of
that's
it.
all of it.
That's all of it. What was it? 06 to yeah.
It's like
And,
the very beginning of 2010 is when it ends.
Yeah, I think maybe I watched it 2011 because I watched the first season of NXT and I was like, in 2010 I was 13 and I watched the first season of NXT and I said I need to start talking to girls and I can't be watching this shit. So I stopped watching wrestling. Yeah, so I watching it as a kid was just into it. I didn't have that connection of this is an ECW. I just fed the slop that I was given. And I think that might be why it's so unmemorable because it's one of those things where I think you go through phases of it where if you understand the context that it exists in, you hate it. You're like, oh, this isn't ECW. This is bad. And then the more you get into wrestling, you're like, oh, there actually was some positives to WWECW that I'm sure we're going to talk about. But for me as a kid, it was just there. And it was the most just there show. I mean, I loved CM Punk, so that was cool. But I couldn't tell you half that roster right now off the top of my head.
A very good
Punk
big top.
debuted there. What did we get? We got Christian's great run. Christian ECW champ run was sick. And yeah, then 2007 happened, and that was awkward. And that's all I remember from WCW.
All right. I'm gonna say that which is funny because it's not a thing that I think about or a show I bring up a lot, but I was at WWE versus ECW head to head in Dayton, which was episode 1A of because it was the week before. I don't even remember if it aired on Sci-Fi or where it aired. It might have been USA, but it was the week before ECW debuted on Sci-Fi. It had RVD versus Rey Mysterio and Cena versus Sabu. Yeah. Which was all that stuff was fun. It's where Big Show. I remember Big Show joined ECW, and it's funny is that I, looking back, was not a huge ECW guy, but in 2006, I guess I'm 18. So I guess I'm a grown man, but I still kind of wanted to pretend that I was upset about the sanctity of ECW, which is so fucking stupid. I was like, Big Show's joining ECW? What a disgrace. Whereas it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't
None of
matter at
this is
all.
real.
And then I actually remember, and then not that long ago, WWE put out a YouTube thing about the backstory of ECW coming back, and they talk about when Big Show versus Batista was on an ECW show, and they're getting ripped apart. People are chanting, change your channels, and Big Show's just like, I didn't ask to be on ECW. I just got told out there, and I did my job. And it's he's right. Why are we little assholes?
That's such a peak of wrestlers getting blamed for things when they're just doing their job. That's such a perfect example of it.
Which I haven't watched that match, but I'm sure it was fine. I mean, I'm sure it was fine, but we're like, this is not an ECW match. It's the worst. Chris, what about you? Do you have any strong attachments to ECW or the WWE rebrand?
I mean, I'm just gonna say it was definitely fine as a Big Show match. He's great. I love the Big Show here. Love the Big Show on this program. But I do not. I was assuming this was just a program that had particularly strong feelings from our guest host, so
But
I went
no.
along with it.
Yeah, you didn't give him the context there.
Because yeah, ECW basically happened entirely when I was not watching wrestling
Are
as
you
a
talking to
child.
girls?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah,
That's always how it
that's
goes.
sick.
You have to start watching, then you find out what a girl is, and then you grow older, and you're like, actually, wrestling's cooler than women.
I was like vaguely familiar with it because like the show was on when I was like starting to post online, and I had friends on forums and stuff that were into wrestling, and they liked CM Punk and like Shelton Benjamin and like Bobby Lashley and Christian and like plenty of guys who were ECW brand that like at one point or another. And but yeah, I've definitely like seen stuff from ECW. Obviously, I've seen like One Night Stand, which is a great show. But I've seen December to Dismember, which is a phenomenal show, one of the best ever. But yeah, I mean, I don't have a particular soft spot for it. It's not. I've never like had the desire to like go back and do a deep dive because like of this period where I really wasn't a wrestling fan in general. I've just gone back and like watched, like I've been exposed to it from ECW matches on pay-per-views, but other than that, it's just like, well, I haven't seen like indie shows from this era, so I should be watching like indies and Japan. And
Yeah, it's a very like it doesn't inspire you to seek it out itself because it's very like it's WWE, you know.
Pat, you love WWECW, correct?
I love it. I love. Actually,
Thank
this
you.
is
There we
yeah
go.
the original ECW. Like I'm the oldest of this group here, and I was watching the original ECW back in its native decade when I was like 14, 15. And when WWECW happened, I was away at college, so I was not watching at all. Like I heard about it months after the fact, and I was also in my I would rather talk to girls phase, and was just like I heard about it, I'm like, oh, that's funny. Then I looked up like what was on the show, and I'm like, oh wow, won't be watching this. And that was it. I had to ask some of my friends earlier today, like, did anything really funny happen in WWECW so I can like be aware of it before PPR tonight? And they linked me to Shelton Benjamin being very racist to Yoshitatsu.
Oh
Now,
yeah, that was
Okay, so
ECW.
see now that it worked asking them.
Yoshitatsu.
this is the only period of Yoshitatsu's career where he was any good. I'll say that.
You didn't like
I
him
did
as
not
like
expect to come
the
on
one A
here and be
or
like
one B of
the
All Japan.
the WWECW expert slash fan. I've never positioned myself as that, but here we are.
Well, I think it's an
I'm willing
interesting
to
thing to
learn.
look back on. Even yeah,
yeah, I'm
even
ready to
as like
sit my
not
white ass down and listen.
well, I
even
will
as
say
like
the number
not
one
a
thing it
fan
has
because
going
it's
for it is it's 1 hour.
no, you're
The perfect length of wrestling show.
that's correct. I mean, that's objectively true.
Weekly TV should never be 3 hours. I will
Should be
listen to the argument.
one show, 1 hour, one match.
Boom.
One show, 1 hour. One of those matches probably has CM Punk or John Morrison or Shelton Benjamin or someone cool. Chavo.
It's WWEC. It's so many guys who are cool. Like, none of it really matters, but there's so many cool guys on it. When you go back, you're like, yeah, CM Punk was there, and Shelton Benjamin was there. Like, that's on paper so sick. And it's CM Punk's hot take best theme song.
That's a bad take.
It's a
What's the
correct take. Not best song, best CM Punk theme song specifically. That's my stance.
I think
You're not fucking with AFI.
I think, like, when I first got into CM Punk and Ring of Honor, I was like, this is really cool. But it's like, I don't need to see you come out to it every single fucking time, man. It got old. It got old to me. Maybe I'm
that's
just
my
like,
favorite, but I would listen to the argument that it should have only been like big events, big matches. But
yeah, it's just like, it's when you make something too epic, and because I mean, like, don't get CM Punk and Ring of Honor is phenomenal. It's one of my favorite runs ever. But like, not every match lived up to that theme song. Like, sometimes it was just like CM Punk like coming out and like working Colt Cabana for no reason, and it's like, really, like, boom 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 ba for this. I don't know. This Fire Burns got right into it. Guitar riff, scream, we're good. Easy.
yeah, this I will also say I think was it last week I watched a match that was like Haggis and PCO and two other big scary guys. It's not popping in my head, but it makes me think of there's the ECW match that's Kane, Mark Henry, Great Khali, and Big Daddy V, which is like one of the matches that I think flipped my brain to stopping to think that you had to be that like that's like almost where I realized like, oh, you can be a big fat guy and be awesome. Because that match is probably like 5 minutes long and it's just, four fucking big dudes just trying to
I
throw
do
each
I
other
will
down the
remember.
rope.
say when I asked my friends like what's awesome about WWE ECW, a lot of the answers had to do with Big Daddy V, and
Yeah.
I was like, all right, my friends know what I like. They get me.
I watched that match like maybe a year or two ago or something. And I think that match might be like, it's such a range on what it sounds like and then how good it is. Like, it's not like the best match of all time, but like, reading that to me on paper, I'm like, this is going to be bad. And then you watch it and you're like, this is pleasant. It's such a big dichotomy in terms of like my expectations for it and then me watching it.
But yeah, I actually think it is a show that if someone wanted to ever do a deep dive, I bet they would find so much good. Because like when I thought about this topic, I'm like, man, there's so much that I liked, but like none of it was life changing match of the year stuff. It was just like, man, if you give William Regal, Zack Ryder and Ezekiel Jackson and Shelton Benjamin like, every week for 5 to 9 minutes, he's gonna make it fucking fun to watch. And then there's Goldust doing the same thing, and then Christian comes over there. Even Matt Hardy's run. Um it really was like once they had given up on it, like once because they kind of gave up on it a few times. Like when it first started, it was going to be like online only. Shane McMahon was going to run, and it was going to be extreme and shit. Then they gave up on that, and they're like, we can get sci-fi money. Let's fucking make it more, with put RVD as like the main guy. And then him and Sabu got pulled over, which actually that's another connection I have. Him and Sabu got pulled over in Hanging Rock, Ohio, which is
Oh, wait.
like 20 minutes from me, maybe. And is like notoriously a speed trap. Like I think they probably have 200 to 300 residents, and they write like 5,000 tickets a year. You just can't speed through that. I've known that my whole life, and I guess Sabu and RVD didn't know that. And so when
You
they
should
got
have
pulled
warned
over,
them.
they
You could have warned them.
if they would have asked, I would have told them. So then they suspended, they took title off RVD and put it on Big Show. So it's like that's kind of them giving up. But then when
It wasn't just that they got pulled over too; it was that they had drugs in the car.
oh yeah, they had all kinds of drugs. Yeah. Yeah.
It
Oh,
wasn't
don't
just
get me
like
wrong.
we're taking the belt off them because they got caught speeding.
Um,
So that would be amazing.
Well, they got caught speeding, and then it was like, oh, you guys have a lot of weed on you. It was like, oh, also both of your pockets are crammed full of Vicodin.
Yeah, it was like and they had steroids and they had all the cool
Mhm.
shit that makes wrestlers awesome.
Yeah, they had a lot of cool shit. Yeah, which this is getting way too in the geography of Ohio, but I'm like, they were in Dayton, and then they went to Huntington, West Virginia, but then they're going back through Hanging Rock. I wonder where they were going next. Doesn't matter. They got arrested.
I
But
love
then-
doing Ohio geography on my episodes. You picked the right time.
You can't live everywhere, man.
I live around.
And then they're like, okay, the title was probably gonna go on this guy Chris Benoit, and something happened, and
What do you
he
mean?
didn't make the match. I don't know. For some reason, he wasn't at the show, and ended up being John Morrison versus CM Punk.
Someone should look into that.
But that is like they gave up on it for like whatever that is, the third or fourth time, and that's kind of when the show got interesting, where it's like they're just throwing whoever they have left over plus random, developmental call ups, and they're giving them an hour of time. And I think at that point, Dusty Rhodes was involved, and yeah, it's just a fun show that I think gets maligned. Like I saw someone refer to it on Twitter, and then I got a bunch of people who didn't really watch ECW that much at all, just dogpile them how it's not the real ECW, and I was like, none of it fucking matters. Like,
Yeah, I'm like clicking on Cage Match this entire time on just random episodes, and I'm just going, yeah, I bet this is fun. I'm just clicking on random cards.
no, I mean, what
Sounds
you
like
need is you just need
Mark Henry versus Finley for 14 minutes. Probably
That's
a
not a
little too
rule.
long,
Yeah.
but it's probably fun. A lot of Evan Bourne matches. We love Evan Bourne.
It really
God he wasn't in that car.
feels like the prototype to
God.
like what oh my god to what NXT like the black and gold thing would become, where it's not just development, it's like development plus actual people. Because the NXT story is like, oh, it's FCW, and then we turned it into NXT. But like realistically, ECW was doing the later NXT formula already, because it was like Kofi Kingston, I think, debuted on ECW, and that's how they brought in CM Punk, and then like
Sheamus, I think.
Sheamus, yeah, Sheamus was debuted on ECW.
Yeah,
But they're mixing
like
it up with
Evan
Christian,
Bourne, like I
and
just said, and yeah, you've got your veterans, you've got like your work rate guys, like you've got like didn't Cody wrestle a lot of his early stuff on ECW?
Yeah, I think so. It's a format that AEW would benefit greatly from. It's just getting more like if they once a week were putting and trying the tour, which I know ECW didn't really tour much, but they toured with the SmackDown, I think, a bunch. Just putting your young guys in matches with your veterans and just letting them learn. Did you guys see that stat? I didn't fact check it, but I saw it on Twitter today that Jungle Boy hasn't wrestled 300 matches yet, and he's like a decade into this.
yeah, he's been
Good. I
wrestling
hope the
forever.
number
That's
goes down.
crazy. I want to unwatch Jungle Boy matches.
Or just like you're not going to get better by not wrestling. I know,
And it
doesn't seem-
feels like something that they did with Dark and like Dark Elevation as just developmental type thing. And then you have Ring of Honor that's kind of stuck in this limbo, but it's almost poetic that AEW now has ownership of a beloved brand that was a very specific style that people have a lot of love for, that if they just gave up on that and made it this 1 hour mixing veterans in with new guys, like Ring of Honor is just the new WWECW. And if they just capitalize on that, it'd be great.
Plus,
It's
put it on
weirdly the same
Sci-Fi.
formula. Throw it on Sci-Fi. Ring of Honor on Sci-Fi.
But yeah, my big takeaway was like I need someone to do the rewatch that you said you don't want to do. Like I want, I don't know, Segunda Caída or someone for our site to pop up and just rewatch all this and then tell me, you know what I mean? Like tell me like this is what you need to watch, because I don't watch wrestling that is current, and I'm probably starting like 4 or 5 other rewatches for the site that I'm not finishing, so
All
I
right,
can't
give
do
me a second here. I might be able to help you out. Let me scroll up
Okay.
the group chat I was in.
And then, yeah.
I would do a WWE ECW rematch if someone presented it all to me, because I don't want to spend more than 5 seconds of effort finding WWE ECW full show. So if there's
You know what's funny?
someone
And
out there in the world
Okay,
with a
so
car
the first
drive,
one we have is Bobby Lashley versus Paul Heyman's personal enforcers, who I am told are the Basham brothers,
Yeah, I remember
wearing
that.
riot gear. So that obviously 1,000,000 stars. Um, we have the complete history of Knock Knock Braden Walker. We have
Oh,
from
I forgot Chris
WWE
Harris was
ECW.
on for 2 shows.
Yeah, we have the Great Khali versus Colin Delaney.
that's awesome. That
I'm gonna
sounds so
You
good.
can't even rate that. You can't even rate that on a scale.
Now
I'm
I think Colin versus
posting that in
Chavo is
the
when he got his quote unquote contract, his like kayfabe contract to be an ECW superstar.
Was it? Yeah, because he had like matches with Armando Estrada. I like remember that happening because as we were doing the Chavo Colin Delaney, I was looking back at Colin Delaney stuff. He had like little. He
As
had
of now, all of it is on Peacock, but I don't know how long that lasts. I don't know what's going on with that.
I was also
Interesting.
recommended CM Punk and Chris Benoit versus Elijah Burke and Marcus Carvon, because apparently the ending of it they completely screw up.
Oh, I forgot that. Yeah, we got Marcus Carvon, Monty Brown
Monty
being
Brown.
around.
The Sandman versus the Zombie. Apparently CM Punk and the Boogeyman tagged in one match.
Ooh.
We have Big Daddy V versus the Boogeyman, which, all-time charisma battle.
The Boogeyman like rules. Like he ate fucking worms. That's so
He
sick.
still does. I mean, he loves this shit. He's hooked on him.
He still does. Is he still out there?
He's still out there.
He's on Twitter.
I went.
He
If he's working in 2025, I know what I'm doing.
He was doing stuff on Instagram with WWE where they, because he's on one of those Legends deals where they stick him in the video games and stuff. So they were like doing things where like he had the mouth full of worms and they had like random Bianca Belair or whoever blindfolded, and
I saw
they were
that.
like touching his head and
I
like
did
he would
see
open
that,
his mouth and
yeah.
the worms would fall out. But I saw him at it must have been in 2019. It was John Moxley's first indie show after he left WWE.
Wow.
And he was just there doing like a meet and greet. I think he did like a run in. He didn't have, like it wasn't like the Boogeyman was in a match. But after his shit was done, I saw him leaving the building and he had his entire head wrapped up like a ninja. I mean, just to make sure no one can see the Boogeyman without his face paint.
That's
He
so
was at
real.
He was at a Comic-Con in Huntington, West Virginia. This was probably 7 years ago now, maybe 6 or 7 years ago. And my nephew was so much younger, and he called my nephew over and like got his attention and like says to my nephew and me kind of as I'm walking over, he's like, "You guys want a picture?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Okay, $40." And this is great because there's a sign behind him saying pictures are $20.
Well, there's two of you.
Well, no, I think
he's
that
really
he was just
milking it.
upselling me on like the autograph combo. Like he was just like, "You obviously want both." When the thing was, I wanted neither.
I mean, it's awesome because the Boogeyman got into wrestling when he was like 58 years old.
He was on Tough Enough, and they yelled at him for being an old man.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember being it
We've
being so
decided
random just
who
because
the champion should have been.
Chris Benoit.
Well, Chris Benoit and the
It's Chris Benoit's the
like
answer.
they do a thing like with the Divas title when it was split in half.
With yeah.
With I think it was Laycool had it.
Lay Cool.
Yeah, Lay Cool.
They like literally broke the title belt in half, and they each carried half of it like it was a friendship bracelet or not a friendship, a locket.
It's a fun gimmick.
But
I
just
can rock
imagine
with
if
that.
it was Chris Benoit and the Boogeyman.
I thought you were going to say Chris Benoit and CM Punk. No, Chris Benoit and the Boogeyman would be so much better.
Yeah. Imagine if they were best friends.
Like, non-ironically, like, we think about, like, the Chris Benoit shit happening and, like, what could have been. But, like, directly what could have been, like, the thing that we directly missed out on was Chris Benoit and like 2007 CM Punk, which I think, I mean, I know CM Punk did fucking fine for himself, obviously, but like, man, imagine if that was his first big thing instead of Johnny TV. If it was him and Chris Benoit working.
I remember one of the CNN reports or whatever being like, Chris Benoit was recently demoted to the ECW brand, which is like true, but like kind of funny, like to even mention that during the circumstance. Like that had anything to do with it.
Just really trying to, we don't like this guy, just so you know. He was demoted. That was also like, you know, like with, I don't think cancel culture is real, but like with people getting quote unquote canceled and this whole separating art from the artist, like how that's been a thing now. Like that was the first thing for me because I was 10 years old and my dad was like, yeah, that guy you like fucking killed his family. And I was like, wow, this is, now I have to grapple with this with my 10-year-old brain. And like that was the earliest that I had to think about, like, man, so can I not play with my Chris Benoit action figure now? Like, what does this mean? Like, he's a bad guy, but I really like him. And it got me thinking early, and it's just funny how that's like now like a common occurrence, like separating the art from the artist.
Who is I don't remember which wrestlers it was, but like during the middle of the tribute video or one of them, what tribute show one of them was like, do you think Chris Benoit killed his family?
It was
Well,
Regal.
I remember being on
Regal.
Yeah, I think I was on One Wrestling maybe, but I don't think it was PW Insider yet. It might have been. Like just hitting refresh. And my little brother was in the room and we were watching Raw and I said to him basically, I was like, hey, I think Chris Benoit killed his family. And he's like, well, that's bad, and then left the room. Like that was too much for him. Which I'm trying to think how old
He's
he was
right.
in there. I mean, yeah, it is.
Correct.
He was 13 or 14. He was like, "That's bad." And literally, I remember like I could draw the scene. Where he was sitting on the couch where he went, "That's bad," and just got up and left.
I will say that's an all-time, and I love because like I tell this story to people because people who don't watch wrestling know who Chris Benoit is, and they like they'll know what happened, and like the all-timer bungle of airing a tribute show and then the very next day having to be like, sorry. Like it's incredible. Lost media. It should say lost.
Yeah. Well, does anyone have any? We're all huge WWECW fans now. Does anyone have any closing thoughts on it?
I just want to ask you guys. So, we talked about the missed opportunity of, various missed opportunities that they had. If you are in charge of WWE ECW, because I think all of you potentially know more about the 2000s indie scene than me, because I was not paying attention to a lot of it. Who would you have, you're Paul Heyman, who would you have signed and strapped the rocket to? Who would have been your CM Punk? I'm going to say BJ Whitmer.
That's a really good question. So 2006.
That's a really good question.
Yeah, like 2005. Yeah, it would have been 2006. So who was so good in 2005 that you're like, in 2006, I need to base my company around this guy?
I mean, I think
Super Dragon.
Well, that's probably the right answer. I have the boring answer where I just think like Danielson and Loki.
But I think also you have to think of this. This isn't just who would you sign, but specifically to WWE's rebranding of ECW that's going to air on Sci-Fi. Because it's like Danielson's the, one of the correct answers. But like, would that have been good for him being on WWECW that time?
I think that Danielson and Loki would stand out anyway. But you're probably right. But then honestly, my answer probably is CM Punk. If you ask me in 05 or 06.
Yeah, it probably is just CM Punk.
Maybe
I think
Homicide,
maybe Joe.
If you tell me that he can stab people with a fork on Sci-Fi.
I think Homicide
I think they nailed it with
ended up doing
Homicide
than Super Dragon. Like Super Dragon would have, concussed like Ezekiel Jackson once and just, he would have been done.
Or he would have concussed Chris Benoit early and could have gotten out of this.
He would have fixed all the damage. He would have kicked Benoit in the back of the head so hard that it undid the 2001 Royal Rumble chair shots. But
One super dragon kick, and he's like, I really love my son.
yeah, one super dragon kick, and he's like, you know what? Maybe I won't be insane about the Bible this time.
One super dragon kick, and he thinks Eddie's still alive, so he's like, all good.
Because it can be understated, like in 04, 05, and then 06, like when he gets signed, it's like CM Punk, as much as it was him against the world, as much as Triple H hated him or whatever, like he was the guy that we were all like, well, if any of our small guys in Ring of Honor are going to do it, it's Punk. Like I think that was like a universal opinion, whereas like he can talk and he can make you feel things, like he can get over the way they want you to get over.
And I mean, you saw it happen too. It's like, yeah, they're the ECW diehards were like, this isn't ECW, but Punk was like the only. I remember that the new breed was like Elijah Burke and like Marcus Corvon, who I love Monty Brown, but he's not this aesthetic. And it was fucking someone else and CM Punk. And it's like the only guy who had enough edge that like these like half fans of ECW would have even accepted. Like Punk goes in there with Rob Van Dam, and yeah, that makes sense. That looks normal to me. You know, Elijah Burke and Sabu, you're like, this is weird. But Punk almost fits in this theoretical version of a new ECW, which is why like Joe and Brian would have, I think, done well for themselves. But I think guys like Homicide would have been a really good pick because there's someone who can get over with this middle fan base that's like kind of knows some stuff, but also is WWE. I think he's a good middle ground.
Had Austin Aries gone to TNA in 2006?
I think that's probably the beginning of him going there.
Oh.
But maybe not. I don't know.
The locker room
be a good pick
could have used an Austin Aries type to keep things interesting. Take some of the heat off of Brian Kendrick and Paul London as far as Benoit and Bob Holly making them do squats until they throw up or whatever.
I mean, if you told me like Paul Heyman was starting in ECW, Joe would be an easy answer too. But it's like it still blows my mind that Joe ever got an opportunity to do anything there. He just seems so against everything they are, which is crazy because Joe is pro wrestling. But I'm still shocked that he did anything when he did, much less back in 06, 07. Can't imagine them actually using him. Like another good answer would be if it's just us running an ECW and we don't have someone telling us what to do, would be Necro Butcher. Speaking of good locker room guy, but I just can't imagine them putting Necro Butcher on TV.
No, I don't think the fans would have even taken to him.
I think
again, it's like it's people like me, you know, who are 13 and fans of WWE, but getting a little older and like, okay, he's ECW. It's supposed to be hardcore. If you show me Necro Butcher, I'm like, I don't get this.
Who's this homeless man?
I also think that they would have immediately put him under like a costume.
Yeah,
like it would have been like
it would have been the
zombie. They brought in post brain damage Terry Gordy and made him the executioner.
I will say too, this isn't TV WWE ECW, but I think it was a one night stand. WWE's revival of ECW does have one moment that I show to many people who aren't wrestling fans, and it's not the 2006 one night stand, I think it is, where Eugene comes out and he reads his poem about how much he loves ECW and gets booed to shit, and then the Sandman comes out and beats the fuck out of him with the cane and makes him like beg, and everyone cheers it. And that is like such a good my friends are like, why do you like this? And I show them that. And I say, you can watch shit like this happen that you could not watch anywhere else. And it's awful.
For wrestling.
I think moments like that sick. Best capture the spirit of the original ECW. Like that is
100%
that Paul Heyman lived for. Stuff like that, and like you know, the thing with Stevie Richards giving Bradshaw the receipt chair shot.
Mm-hmm. ECW lives.
You showing people that is the craziest fucking thing I've ever heard, and I love it.
Oh yeah, it's
You know,
usually
my
people who I
friends
don't
who
expect will
love
become.
physically abusing mentally challenged old men like Eugene.
Oh my god.
It's like I can pretty quickly clock with my friends if they're potentially wrestling fans or if they're just never gonna fuck with it. And so that really, if there's someone who's never gonna fuck with it, but we start talking about wrestling, I'll be like, "Yo, you want to see some crazy stuff?" And I'll show them like TLC highlight video. I'll show them Crime Time because that's crazy, and I'll show them a mentally challenged person being beaten up by a cane
By an
swinging
alcoholic.
alcoholic and getting cheered.
I think about it a lot now. I had a cousin that we were on a beach vacation. Like, there's probably 14 members of my family shoved in a house with like 3 bedrooms or whatever, and I'm watching SmackDown, and I remember her just like, she's like 8 or 9 years older than me, just like eviscerating it. She's like, there's other things on TV. She's like, why would you watch bad acting on purpose? And I think about her a lot now that like WWE is what it is, and I'm like, I need to show her cinema.
I mean,
I mean, she didn't mind when they wrestled, but every time she talked, she'd be like, "There's actors that could do this." I'm like, "Shut up, Jesse, get out of here! I'm watching SmackDown."
I just, why would you watch bad acting on purpose? And I look at like the fucking pile of unwatched Vinegar Syndrome Blu-rays that are amassing. I'm like, gosh, I don't know.
I think that wraps up our big top that we all were super well prepared for, and it was a good time.
I learned a lot.
We made
Thank
it
you,
work.
guys.
This is our Chris Benoit episode.
It is time for Q&AR. I believe we have some questions here. Sam's gone, so we got a lot of Saul questions.
That's so sick.
One of the questions is from Andy, which is good because you're here on the show. Did you? Oh, I didn't check in. Pat, did you get a response from Chavo on his favorite Saul?
No.
Damn it. Okay, I mean, most of these are just like either ranking
Thank
the
you.
Saul
Thank
movies
you.
as Chavo Guerrero
Thank
or
you to
ranking
everyone who
Chavo Guerrero
retweeted.
matches. Oh God, I thought I retweeted it.
No, I'm saying thank you to everyone who retweeted.
Oh,
I'm not
I
being
just am
sarcastic.
so used to getting yelled at on this podcast that I thought that was a shot. And I was like, I did.
No, I'm genuinely happy with how
We
many
really
people
wanted
retweeted.
this to happen.
Yeah, I'm on
Yeah.
board with this. I want him to give me his answer. I'm going to skip these and go to Haven wants to know thoughts on the Final Destination movies. Andy, thoughts?
I think I've only seen the first one, but my girlfriend loves them. And to this day, I don't drive behind logging trucks because there is a new one coming out, though. And I will say the trailer for it is like we were watching a movie and they did the preview, and it's just like a scene of like a guy like at a piercing shop and all this shit happens and it's the fucking Rube Goldberg and then he dies and it's just like Final Destination. And that got me hyped to see it. That's exactly how you promote those things. Just show me a guy dying.
I have never seen one,
That's shocking
but
to me.
I am going to watch all of them before the new one comes out.
Yeah.
Pat, what about you?
I've only seen like bits of them on TV. They seem way too complicated. Because it's like it's something about, it's like, okay, I didn't die when I was supposed to, and so like nature has to find a way to make me die. I don't know. It just seemed, just I would prefer like Jason or something like that. Just a guy running around hitting people with an axe.
You're correct that it's too complicated, but also this is the Saw podcast, so I don't think that's a barrier for
Yeah, no, I
me.
mean, I've only ever seen one Saw movie, so it's like I'm on Saw Thoughts as the hostage in the trap.
I have seen, I think, 4 of the Final Destinations, which is crazy now that I realize there's only 5. So it's like I need to see that 5th one before the new one comes out.
Oh, yeah, you're almost done.
I told the story that I got dumped in it before showing a Final Destination 3 3D. we had been fighting the whole way there, and then it was us, and there was like 8 or 9 of us seeing it together, and then we just like yelled at each other in the lobby of this movie. But then I had already bought the tickets, so I was like, "Well, I'm still seeing this movie," and she's like, "I'm still seeing the movie too." And so we just sat on opposite ends of the 9 of us or whatever, and I just sat there with like tears in my eyes watching a 3D bad horror movie. And
I will
then
say that
If I was
Joe
one of
Foreman-
your friends, I would have been so pissed. I would have been like,
no.
"Fuck these guys."
They were pissed at us. Don't worry, and they didn't hide it. Which, looking at the time, I was like, "How selfish." Looking back, I'm like, "Oh, we were the problem." They just wanted to go see a movie and have a nice night, and we ruined that.
You ruined the cinematic experience
A
of
Final Destination 3D. But I remember, like, we all watched it in silence. We all stood up in silence. We got to the lobby. We all said our goodbyes, and then just like strangers, like no one wanted to speak after like our final blow up. And I just like so Final Destination 3D sticks out of my mind a lot.
I will say though,
Let's
as
see.
on the note of trailers where it's just a scene from a movie, I do think that is a sick way to do trailers. One that sticks out to me was the one for Fast Five, where it's just a scene of The Rock and his fucking like special agents busting through a thing, and he's talking about all these suspects that they're after, and he's going on and on for a minute or two, and then he finally gets to and never let them get behind the wheel of a car, and that's when they tell you it's Fast Five. Anyway,
That's
Fast
No,
awesome.
Five was a sick
I
movie.
feel like an old man screaming at the cloud, but like, yeah, all these trailers nowadays are 3 minutes long, and it's the whole movie.
Mm-hmm. And I was too like with the Final Destination one. It's like, I didn't know they were making a new one, so it's like this stuff starts happening, and as soon as like what was it? Something like locks, and then like something gets caught. I don't know what it was, but you can tell earlier. Like, wait a minute, is this? Are they gonna? And then it's slow, and you're like, no fucking way. And then he dies, and the Final Destination. You're like, I knew it. Let's go. Great trailer.
That's May. Everyone, catch up before May. We're doing a Final Destination Bloodlines VPR. Our next question is from Tay KZ. What happens first? The Earth implodes or Triple H pushes a black person?
Earth implodes.
Yeah,
That's
I went
happening
to Casey,
any
but
day.
What's the
I did
definition
already
of
reply
pushes
with my
here?
answer.
Well, I'm going to say he'll push them out the door, but I'm stealing that from Eamon.
It's a banger. I already replied with my answer, and that's a good question, but unfortunately, it's very easy to answer. There's not much debate here. The Earth implodes. I don't.
I mean,
That's
Yeah,
just
it's like
kind of.
I'm hung up on
Triple H celebrates starts black.
I'm hung
Go on.
up on the semantic definition of push because I think, if you are solely defining push as the world title, then yeah, probably never going to happen. But if you are just, talking about like someone getting a push and getting some momentum, 50-50 odds.
He does like to sometimes push people just to cut their legs out from underneath them.
Yeah, I mean,
Like
even if
it's
you're
more fun to
building up,
give him a little bit of push.
even if you're building up a challenger, you still have to build up a challenger.
This one I wish I read and thought about beforehand. Takeze also says, if you had to be a pro wrestler named after a food pun, i.e. teriyaki, what name would you pick?
You'd be.
Does anyone have an answer for this?
Well, I answered it for you. You're Curry Dan.
Curry Dan? Okay, all right.
I would be your tag team partner, Dan Rice.
Oh shit! My name is Dan Rice, and I couldn't come up with a rice pun. They actually
Dan
used to call
Fried
me
Rice.
Dan. They used to call me Dan Fried Rice when I was.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah. And your shrimp
Making his
brisket.
way to the win.
I don't know. That's a
Yeah.
pun of some kind.
I switched it from Shrimp Biscuit when the
Yeah,
Rizzler
yeah.
was so around Full Gear, and I just haven't changed it back.
I would
put the Rizzler
be.
heavy.
This would be a drink pun, but it'd be Chris Pibbins. I would just be drinking Mr. Pibb all the time.
That's a
good shit right
great
there.
gimmick.
I don't drink Dr. Pepper drinks now, and I wonder now, is Mr. Pig better, or was I just trying to be different back in the day? I don't know.
Oh, I would want
It's
to tie
not better,
myself.
but
Go on. Sorry.
I was gonna say it's not better, but you always had it at Chipotle, and it makes me think of Chipotle, and I like Chipotle. So Mr. Pibb has that like weird connotation where I think it's good.
I would want
Well, as
to
a kid,
tie
I also
myself.
like Mountain Light. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I
I would
interrupted
want
you.
to tie myself to the legacy of a great wrestler. I wouldn't want to just go off the food pun. So I would be El Nieto del Ice Cream.
That's good.
That's good.
But I would say I also used to say Mountain Lightning was better than Mountain Dew when I was a kid, but I think it was because we were just poor and bought Mountain Lightning. We were just buying Walmart brand soda. It's like, this is the best.
I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
It's not hard to be better than Mountain Dew. Mountain Dew just tastes like chemicals.
Yeah, I mean, I don't drink that.
Shout out to
Baja Blast,
Fago
though?
Moonmist.
Yo, Moon Mist is good. 60/40 is crazy too.
Shout out
I'm
to
kinda
Fago.
with
Whoop
Fago.
whoop.
I'm kind of down with the clown. The place I used to work at in Ohio, we sold Fago, and so we had a spot in some of the venues in town. So every time ICP would come to the Newport in Columbus, Ohio, everyone would want to work it because you'd like the juggalos would come in and be like, "Yo, you got Fago," oh, and then they tip you like crazy, and it was such a good time.
They still run there.
Oh yeah, we still got
Yeah,
Fago.
Yeah. I just saw an interview with them. I never looked at this. I'm never, I'm not, not as down with the cons, I guess. I didn't realize they've never had anything to do with Fago. Fago doesn't want them to be as sponsors. Fago doesn't want to sponsor them. Like, Fago doesn't like them
No.
doing that. But I'm like, that's crazy because I wouldn't know about Fago otherwise.
Fago's
No, yeah,
existed
it's-
since like 1930. Like it's like has a whole history before Juggalos even touched it.
Yeah, it's because Fago is very regional Midwest, and ICP is from Detroit, and like Fago is from Detroit specifically, and so like ICP was drinking Fago.
Like, we've always had Fago around here too, but I've always just known it as like the Juggalo drink. And so I thought there had to have been some kind of certain actual connection, but it's just not. They just like Fago. That's the whole connection.
No, it's Detroit, baby. It's
Yeah,
Detroit.
that's true. Yeah. All right. next
Detroit
question
culture.
You guys ever
from,
had Moxie?
Moxie?
I've never had Moxie.
Oh, Moxie
Nastiest
tastes like fucking
shit.
dog shit.
Yeah, it's
My
literally
family lives
like
up in Maine, and my dad swears by it. It's so
yeah,
ass.
you can tell how brain damaged someone is from living in New England by like, do they like Moxie or not?
Okay, but it has a really
Mhm.
cool logo.
It does have a cool logo, but it tastes like the key ingredient is dog penis.
It's one of those
It's-
things where people are like, "Oh, I don't like this drink. It tastes like cough medicine," and they're always talking about like the pink stuff. Moxie tastes like real, like the shoot fucking cough medicine that like you would mix in lean, but without the Sprite. It's so bad.
All right, Moxie. I this makes me want to try it. Horrick says, which saw traps would be the best weapons in an FMW match?
Well, I feel like FMW. I was gonna say at a deathmatch show in general, like if it was an American indie deathmatch, especially Deep South, you could really easily put together the needle pit.
Yeah, I was gonna say the needle pit is like a easy answer. I think also the one where it hangs the dude from the back, and then he has to like do something to pull out the chains. I forget what it is, but just hanging somebody by chains on their skin, like hooks in their skin, that's pretty sick.
Zandig did that.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, he
that's-
literally did. Someone got a tweet at him. What's his favorite saw?
Oh man, I am afraid to get any glimpse into his brain. What was the thing where they were like in a Home Depot? Like it was two guys connected to like a table saw or something like that.
Is that
It was the beginning of one of them because I know it was at
Yeah,
the
it was
beginning of one of the
starting
movies
trap?
because I started watching the movie and then didn't finish it. And like it was like
That
they
one-
had to like one of them had to like sacrifice themselves for the girlfriend or whatever. But then they realized.
Oh, that's Saw 3D. The
Yeah,
best
okay, so
Saw.
that was the good one as far as I know.
Everyone on the podcast loves it.
But
The whole movie?
FMW loved that kind of like overcomplicated nonsense thing, especially as you got into the WEW Koto Fuyuki era, where like it wasn't enough to just have like an exploding ring match. It had to be like an exploding ring match that where all the corners are lined with cactuses and there's scorpions. Like it didn't quite get as stupid as some of the BJW stuff, but it got really, really stupid.
There
I
is the
think-
trap from the new one where it's like fucking Kramer and the kid, and they're like have to go back and forth to not fully drown each other. You know, they have to pull it so they drown instead. I think that would be sick if it's two people lying on a thing and there's water pouring down and you have to push the other guy into it. It's like a test of strength, but losing means you drown. Would be
Is there a saw trap that equates to being thrown out of the ring and almost breaking your neck, and then having someone blow a fireball at you while you are laying there prone? Because
Should be.
whichever trap that is, that's the most FMW of them all.
Now I was thinking, what if we did it at like you said, an IWA? Instead of Deep South, we do like East Coast show, so it's in West Virginia, and the needle pit is like when they used to throw all the chairs in the ring, but all the audience members used to throw their needles in the ring. And
Oh,
it's just
yeah.
like eventually security's like, stop throwing needles, stop throwing needles.
That makes like Abdullah the Butcher giving people hepatitis. You know, that's the nuclear bomb coughing baby meme.
It's the
Yeah,
bring
he was
your
a real
own
jerk for
disease
that, by the
show.
way.
One of the biggest jerks.
You know what? I
Pop
noticed that the white supremacist guy who's in charge of IWA Deep South was not on the biggest jerks list.
Hmm. But AJ Lee, she's up there.
AJ Lee was.
Much
The Harris brother with an SS tattoo was not.
Okay. Our next question is from a bastard.
Okay.
Favorite type of saw? I'm gonna go first and say I love a miter saw. Anyone else have a favorite saw?
I'll go
Seesaw.
next. Jig,
Mm.
keeping it on theme.
And you said seesaw, Pat?
It said seesaw. It's fun.
Okay. Chris, favorite saw?
Oh, probably a band saw.
Good saw. Okay, and this will be our last question from Cole. That's a good one. Who in the current world of wrestling is most likely to be a swinger? Who do you see getting nasty at Hedonism 2?
I like
And
the little extra tagline they put. That's great.
So it
I
has
mean,
to be at
all of
Hedonism
them.
2. Yeah, so I mean, it's explicitly at Hedonism 2 and not the Jericho Cruise, which
Oh God.
I do see you can see Chris Jericho at Hedonism.
I mean, if it was the Chris Jericho,
Oh yeah.
Chris Jericho.
with Tom and Bunny.
Yeah, it's
When he comes through the door, like, oh, Mr. Jericho, welcome back.
I'm trying to think of a funny answer, and I'm just not, because you can't say Vince McMahon anymore, because that's, just not funny
Can't do that anymore because of woke.
Well,
anymore.
damn it. They took everything from us. Does Jim Cornette count?
Oh, Jim Cornette definitely counts.
Yeah, but that's
100%.
that's picking
That's-
the already confirmed thing.
Yeah, that's not most likely. That's just is.
That's
the
just
answer.
factual.
Yeah.
I like to speculate.
I'm gonna say Joe Hendry. Joe
Ooh,
Hendry
good
strikes
shout.
me as exactly that kind. Like, he's not the kind of Brit rest pervert who is going to force himself on a 15-year-old, but he is the kind of Brit rest pervert who is going to make you watch him grope his wife.
Oh, you know what my answer is? Suge D, because his AEW gimmick was Pineapple Pete.
Oh. I actually am going to say my answer is Tony Khan. Maybe we'll get someone will aggregate this. Like I'm saying for a fact, Tony Khan's a swinger, and that's why he's
Violent
bad at
People
booking.
Radio has reported
Yeah,
Tony Khan.
sources tell me. Oh, I don't know if I said it out loud. I did send John Zandig a Facebook message asking him his favorite Saul. So I'll get back to you guys on that one.
Thank you for your sacrifice.
I'm doing everything here I can. I think that's enough for Q&AR though.
Yeah, I think these poor people have had enough.
And by that I mean there's no more
Yeah.
questions. So, all right. Well, Andy, thanks for being on the show. Do you have anything you want to plug?
No. Thanks.
All
This
right.
is fun.
I mean, check out the site. We should have more VP 2010s coming up, and vote. Please vote. We'll tweet it out again. Hopefully, get some more new ballots. I can't.
Please
Chris would know
vote,
better than me,
and
but I think we're doing
also
great.
everyone vote and everyone send me $20.
Yeah, do that. Put his Cash App in the doobly-doo.
If you send me $21, I can make your vote count more.
I mean, I might have to send you $21 and then just put Charlie Tiger at number 1.
Okay.
Gotta
You
do
know,
what I
it's
gotta
funny.
do.
You know, before this, I knew Charlie Tiger as the guy who got measurably and visibly fatter every time he showed up in GCW. Like he was
I have to
just
let you know,
You're like,
of all the things we've talked about this evening, I'm terrified that Charlie Tiger is going to do something before this is produced to make this not a fun time.
yeah, he's
we
gonna
need
go
one final
into he's gonna
check of
head
his
over
Twitter.
to Hedonism 2 and get into some real deep shit there.
He's brandishing all $1,400 that is every dime he owns. We know because
That's generous.
He's
I
going
was
to
trying to be
go
nice.
to the airport with that giant fucking knife.
Oh my god. All right, well, tune in next week to see what's going on with Charlie Tiger, guys. Thanks.